BLUELOCK's Neo Egoist League wrapping up, there are many things being revealed, but of course, all eyes are on who will be the winner of it all. The number 1 from BLUELOCK, the highest ranking salary, and the winner of the Neo Egoist League. Not only are people waiting to see the top 23, which will make up Japan's U20 team, but we are all waiting to see who claims that number 1 spot. Going into the U20, that number 1 spot is pretty important. They'll basically be the ace of the Japan team. They have bragging rights, their bag is also up, and it's no doubt that they'll be crowned the best player from BLUELOCK. I was debating making this video to see who from BLUELOCK has a chance at becoming the number 1, but if we're being honest, Barou got his final salary, Shido's 100 million off, and Batre needs the teeny tiny amount of 120 million. So it would pretty much be another Isagi versus Rin video, and I've already done that. So we're doing something that no one else in the BLUELOCK community has done before, and that's talk about Isagi. Specifically, if Isagi will win the Neo Egoist League. At least this one's new, unlike anything we've seen before. Isagi winning the Neo Egoist League was a pipe dream in the past, but we've seen Isagi turn from a little boy into a concealed carrier. Isagi has had some of the best development in this series just from the Neo Egoist League alone. It really is his arc, so answering that question of whether he will be the number 1 from it is actually a really close debate and a really interesting one. So of course, I'll be going over all of that development and what I think it means, how I think it will play out, and why, as we answer one of the biggest questions in BLUELOCK: will Isagi win the Neo Egoist League? Alright, so if we're talking about winning the NEL, we have to first talk about the salary ranking system. We honestly haven't gotten a ranking like this since the second selection. I think the salary system is super cool. It kind of reminds me of One Piece bounties. To be honest, the salaries itself is really weird, so we won't try to find the niche qualifications of what gives a higher salary. We'll just try to find the general qualifications. Again, I say this because the salary system has been all over the place. Nagi getting 88 million for 1 goal, Barou getting only 22 million for 2, and then Rin getting 150 million for 3. That's why I say it's pretty unbalanced, but the key takeaways seem to be goals give salary, and then also winning the game gives salary. So we'll use that for our debate whether Isagi will take that number 1 spot or not. Basically a minimum requirement because he does need to increase his salary in order to become the number 1. And yeah, it makes sense for Isagi to get a higher salary than Rin, who is the current number 1. It seems like the baseline requirements are that Bastion Munich has to win their games, and then Isagi has to score maybe even more than once. Speaking of scoring, this video is made directly after Isagi's standout goal tying the match against PXG, which was absolutely insane. My voice is still dead from it. To be honest, I didn't see this goal coming out at all. I thought Kunigami was gonna score the first one, but I guess he's still on the sides for now. This is why I'm making a video as big as this, predicting if Isagi will become the number 1 in the NEL or not, because that goal will obviously increase Isagi's salary and give him a closer chance at overtaking Rin, especially since Isagi scored in an amazing manner. I mean, the most recent goal may have overtaken his last Uber's goal, which, keep in mind, even had Lorenzo bamboozled. We see Isagi passing the bottom Gen 11 player Chappie, Michelin Man, and also Stoneface to combine top performances with Kunigami. Time and time again, we've seen Isagi drawn out his teammates' best performances. We saw it with Hiyori in the Ubers game, and then here with Kunigami. It's one of Isagi's best traits and why he's one of the best players. That's why he's so powerful. He doesn't necessarily need overpowered weapons like Kaiser Impact or Shido's Instincts. The plot has told us repeatedly and showed us repeatedly that Isagi can more than compensate for that by using his teammates' weapons. Because of that, Isagi's biggest problem is out of the way and he is in front of the goal. Now he can rely on either his left direct or his right direct, or maybe both. Isagi copying Nagi here with the fake volley, beating out both Rin and Kaiser, the current number 1s of the NEL, by the way. Yeah, Isagi kind of beating the not a striker allegations here, I'm not gonna lie. And if you thought Isagi's last goal with the Ubers broke the power scalings, Isagi is now looking a little too good after this goal. He definitely earned a few stars here. He's star of the week. Why I mentioned this one is he obviously scored that goal, which brings him closer to that salary increase and becoming the number 1. And 2, Isagi just beat out both Rin and Kaiser with the skill we've never seen from him before, a completely new weapon. But we'll get into that later as we talk more in depth about Isagi, Rin, and Kaiser, as they play a huge role in whether Isagi will actually take that number 1 spot or not. First, let's talk more about the goal and after the goal. Tying the score against PXG means Isagi will get a hefty salary increase from this, but I don't think it will be enough to give him 50 million, which is what he needs in order to surpass Rin. Not even surpass, just to tie. And keep in mind that Rin is also playing in the same game. We haven't seen him use Destroyer mode or any of his other tricks, so he'll most likely score a goal as well and increase his personal salary. We'll talk about that later again when we talk more about Rin. That's why I'm saying he also needs to win the game or score more than 1 goal. Rin will also increase his salary from this game, so logically it makes sense. I think this goal does mean a lot though, because Isagi has gained 100 million in a match before, so it's definitely possible. And with an impressive goal like that, it's not too crazy, but I do think 1 goal isn't enough here. They either need to take the win or Isagi needs to score more than 1 goal. On top of that, the most recent chapter seems to be hinting towards Isagi scoring more than 1 1 goal. We see that he literally says if he scores a hat trick which wins them the game, he'll be able to surpass Rin and win the Neo Egoist League. We do know his goal is to get the number 1 spot, and that seems to be, by his standards, getting a hat trick to get a high enough salary to do so. It might actually just happen. So even the manga itself is saying that Isagi needs a hat trick to win. We'll see, to be honest, as my predictions about who will score the next few goals will reveal whether or not Isagi gets it. Anyways, it's not strictly about salary for Isagi getting that number 1. Plot has a huge effect on whether Isagi will get that number 1 spot or not. It depends if Isagi surpasses Rin or Kaiser or not, and we're finally here at their debate. This goal and this chapter does actually hint towards it, so it's super important to discuss it. But something super important as well is making sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 18k, which is absolutely nuts. How we're doing that during the Blue Lock drought is just crazy. Almost as crazy as Isagi's goal, so make sure to hit the subscribe button and join the community. All right, getting back to it though, this Kaiser and Rin discussion is going to be fully theorizing. There isn't really much facts we can go over as Blue Lock has been unpredictable. I mean, who predicted Isagi to score like this? I'm honestly fine giving Isagi another weapon, which seems to be some sort of ambidextrous shot. Compared to other players with ridiculous weapons, it does make sense that Isagi gets something like this. It's not no Kaiser impact, but at the same time, it's no Mickey Mouse shot as well. Isagi wanted to cover his weak left side, so I wouldn't necessarily call the specific shot plot armor. The most important part of this, though, would obviously be Rin and Kaiser. Isagi, quote-unquote, beating them out with this beautiful shot means a lot for both of their characters. This is where my personal theory plays out. I made a community post asking your guys' opinions on whether Isagi would win the NEL, and that was a war zone. Yeah, over 12,000 votes and 100 comments. People had pitchforks in hand going at each other. Again, there are so many ways this could play out. I've seen a lot of people say Isagi shouldn't win and that it's good writing that he shouldn't. And then there are people defending Isagi with their lives saying that he's gonna win. Everyone has their own theory about Isagi and what will happen, myself included. But getting into my own, I think Isagi's development so far hasn't had a serious loss in a while. The last time we've seen Isagi really lose was in the second selection, which is almost 150 chapters by now. Kaiser and Rin are Isagi's biggest rivals, so not only do we have to predict what happens to Isagi, we have to predict what happens to them as well. Alright, let's start with Kaiser. I think this one's been really hinted at and a lot of people will agree with, that Isagi is going to beat him and then we'll see a Kaiser downfall. There was that whole thing of Isagi wanting to take everything away from him, and he hasn't been performing the best recently. It is up for debate though, since it is super early, especially since we haven't seen Kaiser's new weapon. But I think Isagi scoring his goal here and tying the total amount of goals scored is super important. Because if Isagi scores 1 more goal, that means Kaiser has no chance of beating him. They'd be tied, or Kaiser loses the goal race that they agreed to. And we know Isagi either needs to score at least 1 more goal or 2 goals in order to surpass Rin to get the number 1 spot. Plot-wise, I do think Kaiser's character will be quote-unquote beat here. In chapter 258, it literally says that if he scores 1 more goal, he'll be able to crush Kaiser completely. The main character is literally saying it himself. We don't necessarily know what this means though. Maybe it means getting ahead of him in the goals, proving him wrong, or taking over Bastard Munich. Because we recently just saw that Grim was subbed out after Isagi's goal, subbing in Corona to help Isagi instead. So if Isagi scores another, maybe that means Ness, the only other person helping Kaiser right now, will be subbed out for another Blue Lock player. This could be a way to tie in some of the other bench players as well. We have Yuki Miya, we have Igaguri, and we have Neru Tepe. And besides Yuki, these two both do need salary, so maybe this is a way they get it. Ness isn't really doing too much as well, so I think he will be subbed out if Isagi scores another goal. That's why Isagi says he'll crush Kaiser completely if he scores another one. This would humble Kaiser and also hype him up for their eventual matchup in the U20 World Cup, Japan versus Germany, because Kaiser would try and get his revenge on Isagi for taking everything away from him. I could definitely see this happening. Isagi scoring another goal, which humbles Kaiser, maybe even giving other Blue Lockers a chance for a salary like Igaguri, and then Kaiser is left on the pitch alone. It makes sense because it builds up Kaiser's character, and 1 goal will take him 1 step closer to getting that hat trick, which he says will win him the Neo Egoist League. However, there is one more obstacle in the way, and that is of course the current number 1 Itoshi Rin. If Isagi manages to score the 3rd goal, he will clear this obstacle, take the number 1 spot, complete the hat trick, and that will lead Bastard Munich to a 4-0 victory, which we said before is required for him to win the NEL. We basically now have to theorize about Itoshi Rin, if Isagi will surpass him here or not, and also taking into account the fact that Isagi hasn't lost in a while. Bastard is 3-0, Isagi is evolving at rapid rates, and Kaiser hasn't really stopped Isagi too much. I mean, 2 goals in the Ubers and scoring just now in the PXG game. Isagi is completely on a winning streak. But does this winning streak continue, or does he get his first loss in a while? Answering this also gives us the final answer on whether or not Isagi will win the Neo Egoist League. So firstly about Rin, we all know a Rin goal is incoming. I think this will be the next goal we'll see. Obviously, it will raise his salary and make the score 2-1 in PXG's favor. However, I think this goal will be scored using Destroyer mode. You know, something Isagi hasn't played against. In using it for the first time and against Isagi will probably take him off guard and just show how powerful he really is, being a huge threat for that last and final goal so PXG wins. Their win condition would be that destroyer mode, so in order for Isagi to win, he needs to shut down what just gave PXG the lead. We're also assuming Kaiser will get everything taken away from him and humbled from the Neo Egoist League, like stated before. Because of this, I could see Isagi tying the score and making it 2-2 after Rin's goal. This way, it makes it way more hype as well. There's a suspense of whether Isagi will complete the hat trick and get the #1 spot or not, or Rin's destroyer mode, which is still a complete mystery up until this point, and then also PXG's hidden aces. We haven't seen Loki sub in, Charles still has been really silent, and maybe Chappa does something for once, but I don't know. PXG still has a lot. Will Rin keep his #1 spot and defeat Isagi once again, or does Isagi find a solution to destroyer mode, which has already scored a goal? Isagi is in due time for a loss since it has been over 150 chapters, and we can get more development for him because of it. However, I do not think that time is now. I think Isagi will complete the hat trick against Rin, take the #1 spot in BLUELOCK, and make it 3-2 in Bastard Munich's favor. There's a lot of reasons why. I think we could first start off with how good Isagi actually is. It's not really plot that he is the #1. If he pulls out a hat trick against an undefeated team like PXG, it makes sense that he can get it. If Rin did score with destroyer mode for his second goal as well, that means Isagi will have time to develop a plan to counter Rin's destroyer mode so that Rin doesn't score that final goal. Isagi also having Corona, Hiyori, Kunigami locking down Shido, and maybe some other characters if Ness gets subbed out. He would literally gather the Avengers here. Compare that to Rin, who only has Nanase and Tokimitsu supporting him. Isagi does have the numbers advantage. It would still be a very, very close match, but we can expect a lot of things from Rin's side as well. Charles hasn't acknowledged him yet, so we could still see that Charles x Rin combo. Loki hasn't subbed on, and maybe we'll finally see a Shido x Rin chemical reaction. That'd be super hype and super dangerous. That would make the game super, super close, and there are so many possibilities coming from both sides. However, one thing is damn near confirmed: Kaiser being left alone on the pitch if Ness gets subbed out. Isagi will have an easier time scoring with Kaiser not having as much of a presence as before, and even now with just Kaiser and Ness, I don't think they can do too much here, so I do believe that Isagi would pull off a hat trick, or at least 2 goals here. Even if it wasn't a hat trick for the win, I think as well Rin has beaten Isagi on almost every single occasion, so for him to do it here again, it would be kind of repetitive. Rin isn't just Isagi's rival, and that's why it works. He has the whole plot line with his brother and his rivalry with him as well, so even if Isagi takes that #1 spot, it doesn't change much for Rin. He'll still be an important character in the U20 game going against Sai. I just think Isagi's character does fit the #1 role a little bit better here. He is the main character and also supposed to be the one leading Japan to victory. I think being the #1 coming out of the Neo Egoist League and going into the U20, there'll be a lot of hype and expectations for Isagi. And rightfully so, if he is the winner of the Neo Egoist League, he'll basically be the ace for Japan. However, Isagi would still be continuing that win streak going into the U20. It may be due time for him to lose, and I think it will be in the form of a Kaiser revenge in the Germany versus Japan match. Kaiser, the person who got everything taken away from him during the Neo Egoist League, would be the one to end Isagi's win streak in the Japan versus Germany match. Then people would talk about Kaiser in Germany rather than Isagi in Japan, and they would fail to win the U20. This way as well, Kaiser could get his revenge, and they'll continue BLUELOCK going into the second World Cup. Isagi would get more development for going through a loss and not leading Japan to victory, and maybe go through a whole redemption arc and stuff like that. But that's way in the future. Current times, even though the PXG game hasn't ended, I do think the winner of the Neo Egoist League would be Isagi. It just makes sense, and it seems that most of y'all agree as well. We had 88% of you say yes. Humbling Kaiser while also having the support of Bastard Munich and obviously BLUELOCK, Isagi I think will at least score 2 or 3 goals here, making Bastard's record 4-0 and giving Isagi the #1 spot in the Neo Egoist League. Honestly speaking, if Isagi didn't verbally say he needed a hat trick to win the NEL, I would have thought Kaiser scored a goal and then Isagi scores the last one, and then they'll be tied in goals going into the U20. I still think Isagi would end up as the winner of the Neo Egoist League since Bastard Munich won and he scored 2 goals, but that chapter literally made me rewrite the whole script for this video. Hat trick or not, I do think if Isagi scores 1 more goal and also wins against PXG, he'll be crowned the Neo Egoist League winner and also the ace of Japan going into the U20. I'm super excited to see how this all plays out. Again, there are so many possibilities. I think this game is the most unpredictable one we've had so far, so it's super hard to make a theory assuming who wins and whatnot. Anyways, if you watched to the end, thank you guys so much for watching and the support as always. My name's Hiryo, and I'll see you guys next one.